everybody, this is Erin. I apologize for the state of myself and for the lack of urgency on my slow stitching tutorials, and I'll explain. But I wanted to try and get this done today because they are Christmas themed, and I wanted to get them done at least during the month of December. But as you can see, I've had a bit of a mishap happen. While I was at my sister's place baking Christmas cookies, I got my finger caught in a chair frame, and the chair won. So it's looking pretty gnarly, but thankfully it's not broken. It appears the x-rays look really good. It appears to just be soft tissue. That's very, very angry. And I'll probably lose the nail, but so I'm going to go ahead and try and do the slow stitch tutorial today, and we're going to see how it goes. If it doesn't go so well, I will redo it later with a different design that's non-Christmassy so that we can continue learning together. So bear with me. The activity today is going to build on the skills that we learned in the first tutorial. So I'm not going to go through again how to, put your fabric in the hoop. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on threading needles and things like that, because we learned that in the first tutorial. So if you are at level 0 with look at me trying to talk with my hands. If you're at level 0 with slow stitching and would like some more time going through all of that stuff, I really encourage you to go back to the first tutorial. It's the holly leaves one. If you're looking at the thumbnails, the holly leaves should be in the picture. And that one is going to go through everything like very, very step by step. But this one is for, we're a little bit more experienced now. We're feeling a little bit more comfortable with our equipment, and we're going to move a little bit faster with each one of these. So, all right, let's go. All right, so today I am using 6-stranded embroidery floss instead of the purled cotton. Today we are going to be working with a split stitch and a satin stitch, and I think for these stitches the 6-strand embroidery floss to me just works better. So the colors that I'm using today are going to be number 904. It's a green. I decided to go a little bit different on the color scheme today. And this one, I do not have a number on it, but it is basically just kind of a antique white, cream color, ivory, something in that realm. I thought I would go a little bit more natural with the color scheme today. So I'm going to move those out of the way. Make sure you can see here. The design we're going to do is going to be a Christmas tree. I'm just going to move this out of the way. So I will show you what the example looks like. This is the one that I did before. So we're going to do this kind of like swoopy Christmas tree with a little star at the top and a little bit thicker down at the trunk. I'm going to try and move my fat finger out of the way. So, all right. And the way we draw this, if you remember my Santa hat analogy, we're going to kind of build on that. So I'm going to draw kind of a long, skinny triangle for the trunk. And then I'm going to draw a Santa hat with swoopy ends on it. So Santa hat with swoopy ends on it like that. And then I'm going to start back at the peak of that Santa hat and bring it down a little bit further with swoopy ends. And I'm going to do that one more time. There we go. And then I forgot to leave myself a little bit of extra room for the star, but that is okay. You know what else is okay? The fact that I got this just a little bit crooked. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of use my pen to straighten that out. I'm using a water-soluble pen, so this will wash out once I get this wet. So it's not a big deal. I can scribble all over this as long as I can see what I'm doing. it's just fine, and it will be for you too. So don't be afraid of doing the drawing yourself. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get my green ready. And for this, I'm going to be using 4 strands of the 6. So I'm just going to peel 2 off the strands. Sometimes they come quietly, and other times we need to do this the hard way. Looks like today, because I'm fighting with my injury, it's gonna give me problems. So I'm gonna try, and sometimes it helps if you pull it upwards. God. Oh, I just snorted. You guys, I just snorted. My goodness. All right. Oh, shoot. There we go. You never realize how your hands and fingers all work together until you try and function without one. Okay. All right, we got that done. Okay. I do have some music going on in the background. I hope that's not distracting for you. And if you can hear it, I hope you enjoy John Denver, because it's Christmas time, and that to me means listening to John Denver. Of course, pretty much any time of year means listening to John Denver for me. If you know me well, you know I'm a big fan of John. So if you catch me singing, well, you'll just have to, oh shoot, okay, well, I usually sometimes use that finger to thread, but all right, we're gonna, thankfully I busted this finger up on my right hand, and I'm actually left-handed, so hopefully I can still do this. Okay. So I think for our purposes, I'm going to start at the outer edge of this branch right here, and I'm going to work my way up, and kind of up one side and then back down the other. And the way that we do a split stitch, it's kind of like a back stitch, if you remember that, but we're going to split the stitch down the center, excuse me. Whew. I thought I had to sneeze there. So I'm going to come up from the back of the fabric. Make sure you guys are in frame here. And okay. And I'm going to come down. I'm saying this is maybe about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch. I don't know. It's pretty small. Keep the stitches pretty small. Okay. So far, nothing crazy. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up the stitch, and I'm going to split that stitch in half. So I'm going to come up right, I don't know if you can see that, right in the middle of those threads. And I'm going to go back down now. So you see how it's kind of like a back stitch. We're filling in all of the space, and we're kind of going, we're like backtracking a little bit each stitch. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back a little bit. So back up, and I'm going to split now the second stitch that I did. And that is how we're going to continue all the way up this side. So I'm going to show you a couple more in slow motion, and then we're going to speed up the video. So in this case where we've got this curve, and you see the straight stitches don't like to fit around a curve. So that's why the split stitch is helpful, because now I can come up and fit this curve, and I'm going to kind of tilt my needle over to grab those stitches. I'm going to pull that thread back over, and it's going to kind of make that stitch conform to the curve better. So it's one of the reasons I like this stitch so much. And there's a second reason I'll tell you about once we get to another part of the project. Mystery. If that is an enticement to watch the whole video, I don't know what is, guys, because not sure what I did there. Yep, okay. So sometimes you just kind of catch these little tails and you pull them up through, and that's when you get those little fuzzies. That's okay, just pull them back out. All right. I apologize for the shaking. This my little work tray here is not especially stable, unfortunately, and my camera tripod is the kind that attaches to the table. So once one shakes, everything shakes. So I will look for a better option for this, but this is where I do my embroidery in the comfort of my recliner, versus my work table in the studio, because this is something that I enjoy doing while I watch TV with Matt at night, while he works. We have a workspace. My boyfriend and I are both artists. He is an extremely talented illustrator and graphic designer, and he works for a apparel producer during the day, but does his own stuff at night. So we have kind of our desk-like workspaces up here in our living space, and then we have a studio downstairs for our art medium work. My daughter says it's fun. She lives in a household full of artists. So, and then, as you know, I design the digitals for ePapery, so I do all my graphic design up here as well, and I do my work on my journals and stuff downstairs. I have this microphone cord that's just completely driving me crazy here, so I'm gonna get that out of the way. There we go. See if I can, oops, and now I just moved the camera. All right, not scoring very high on production quality today. So, but like I said, I wanted to try and get this done because this series is just taking me way too long to produce. So I get too distracted by all of the other things that I want to do. All right. Okay, so how about we just speed up the video now and give you guys a break from me talking. Seem to run into a problem here where the thread snagged a little bit on the back side and I pulled my needle off. So what I'm trying to do, without making too much of a mess here of things, is pull those threads through as much as I can. There's a bit of a knot right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop here and make a clean end on the thread, because now they're all different lengths. It happens, you know. And I'm going to rethread this and hopefully just be able to get to this thread back around to the back. There we go. So this will be our last stitch with this thread here. Carefully pull that knot through. Okay. And then we're just going to tie this one off. And the way that I'm going to tie this off is I'm just going to pull back around to this last stitch that I did and tuck that needle underneath that stitch, still on the back side of the fabric. Pull that through, and then one more time, and then I don't have a lot of thread here, so I might not be able to fit the needle through. So if you can't do that, you can use the butt end of the needle to pull it back through the loop to make the knot. And then I'm going to clip and get myself a new thread. Okay, so this last stitch did not get split, so that is where I'm going to start. I'm going to come up from the back end and split that stitch. Almost sounds like a catchphrase to a game show or something. Erin, split that stitch. I'm weird. I know. Some people find it endearing. If you don't, I give you permission to scroll on. This channel isn't going to be for everybody. He'll say too, I keep trying to sew my finger to this Christmas tree, which has been an interesting adventure. But the crafting must get done. Am I right? The crafting must get done. Here's another example of straight stitches don't like curves, so we're going to force it. Just pull those threads right over. One more swoop to go, guys. One more swoop to go. And then we can start on the trunk. So, all right, I'm going to come back up here and kind of finish this like second row so that it's nice thick trunk all the way back, or all the way up to the little peeky peak. Does anybody else love John Denver and the Muppets Christmas? It is one of my probably top 3 favorite Christmas albums. So I'll tell you a story. Matt and I were down in Eureka Springs, Arkansas for our vacation over the spring. Hi, Eureka Springs. And we stopped in at this holistic pharmacy to look around, and there was a gentleman that worked there or also had a store in the same building. I'm not sure exactly what the situation was. And I noticed he had a bunch of antique music and stuff hanging around. And I commented, because of course, if there's any antique paper around, I'm going to be attracted to it. And so we were talking about it was his grandmother's collection of music. And he brought out this whole stack of music. And towards the bottom of the pile, I saw it was the music book for the John Denver and the Muppets Christmas album. And I just freaked out. I was so excited to see it. And he just was, he was so excited for me. He gave me the book. He gave it to me, and oh my gosh, I just cried. I was so happy. I don't think he knew how much it meant to me. So, sir, if you happen to ever see this video, I appreciate you very much. God bless you this Christmas, and I hope you're having a safe and happy and healthy holiday. Okay, so we've got the branches of our tree done, and now we need to do this trunk. Now, if you wanted to, you could change colors here and do this in a brown or something like that. I'm going to stick with green, just because I wanted to keep this really simple. But if you want to switch colors at this point, you absolutely can. It is not going to hurt anything. That's kind of why I made this design the way I did. But here's the way I'm going to start this. I'm already kind of, move those out of the way. I'm already kind of up here in the point a bit. So that's where I'm going to start. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our same split stitch, and I'm just going to make a border around this I'm going to use the same split stitch. I'm going to make a border around this trunk. And after that, we're going to use a satin stitch to fill it in so that it's all solidly colored. If you do yours and you want to just stay with the border, that's fine too. You know, make it your own. But for purposes of this tutorial, I wanted to teach you guys two different stitches. And I always border my satin stitches with a split stitch. I learned that from another YouTuber, and I unfortunately, I don't remember her name. But if I ever figure it out, I'll link it below in the video, but I don't remember her name currently. And the reason she does it is because it creates a nice clean border for that satin stitch, and it gives that satin stitch just a little bit of poof in there that you don't otherwise get. And so the difference is amazing. So hopefully you'll see what I mean, but I've done satin stitches without it. It just never turns out as nice. And I do a pretty nice satin stitch. So I've been told. So I'm going to start up here, and I'm just going to do that split stitch. I don't have to do my stitches quite as short and tidy for this because it's just a border and it's going to end up getting covered up. But you do you. I'm just going to make sure that's not snagging on the back. Something felt like, okay, nope, we're good. Okay. So. From 1 to 92. Okay, so I have finished doing the split stitch border around here, and at this point I'm going to start doing a satin stitch, but I'm down to about half of my thread and we're going to need a lot more thread for this, so I'm going to go ahead and tie this off and just start a fresh thread. So now, since I've been using 4 strands off of a 6 strand, I've actually got two strands here, so I'm going to combine those to make a 4. Just like that. It's kind of I like to give them a couple of combs. I managed to thread my needle without the needle threader this time. Ha ha. All right, so we're going to tie this off. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start at the bottom of the trunk and work my way towards the top. That way, if I'm getting towards the top and I'm running out of thread, it's not going to matter. I'm going to need less, and you know, if I don't want to go like all the way up, I don't have to. So just, you know, that's just me. You start wherever you want, although I would start at one end or the other and not the middle, but that was probably logical, maybe. So all we do for a satin stitch is we come up on the one end of the space that you want to fill, on the one side of it, I should say, and we go down on the other. And you're going to keep doing the same thing and just basically laying those stitches down right next to each other. So I'm going to come up again right next to the other stitch that I did and going down on the other side. Now the split stitch is offering me that nice clean border, and it's giving me some place to kind of like anchor my thread to so that I can pull that satin stitch down, and it creates just a much nicer border, and it's just easier than trying to eyeball that along the line. Having that physical stitch there to help guide the needle is nice. And you can use your needle to kind of comb those threads a little bit if you want them to kind of lay a little bit nicer, but typically this type of thread lays pretty nice. You can go down to 2 threads for this if you want, 2 or 3 threads. It makes a finer satin stitch, I think. I wouldn't go any more than 4. Then it starts looking a little bulky. But for purposes of this, and make sure that you're not tugging too tightly. You don't want to pull holes in that fabric. So because I didn't put a stabilizer on this fabric, so and this takes a while, so just be very patient. But it is so satisfying when you get it, when you finish it and you see what a lovely job you've done. yeah, I think it's just, it's satisfying. It looks, you know, really nice and kind of high end. Um, I'm going to purposely make a mistake here just so I can show you what to do. So what happens if I, you know, move over a little too far and, you know, I did something like this. There's a little bit of a space in there, you know, it didn't quite fill it in. All you got to do is just go back in and just grab that little space again. Okay, right there. And you can put it back down through the same hole that the last stitch was in if you want, if that's where it belongs. And just kind of, you can use one under the other just to kind of comb the threads a little bit. There, see? Embroidery is actually very forgiving, I think. If you, once you figure out things like how to get out of a snagged thread and, you know, things like that, it can be very forgiving. And I prefer this to cross stitching. I liked cross stitching, and that's kind of how I got started doing all this. But I gotta tell you, it was breaking my brain to keep count of all of those cross, you know, I've got to do 15 of this particular color before I switch rows, and gross. I didn't want to sit there and count. This is supposed to be relaxing. So I prefer the more free form embroidery like this. And I think that's why it's taken off so much. This is very cathartic for me. I get a lot of kind of nervous energy in my hands. I like to pick at things, and I'm the gal that peels the labels off my beer bottles and or soda bottles and things like that. I pick pills on sweaters and Afghans and stuff, and so something like this was just a wonderful discovery for me, because I could do something with my hands, and it wasn't messy. It travels really easily, and I can make things that are not only pretty but also can have use to them. So I've made myself some kitchen towels and things like that with some pretty embroidery on them, and pillowcases and things. So I do enjoy this. And of course, as you know, we do offer slow stitch embellishments and things in the shop. For those of you that do not care to do this for yourself, that is okay. We each enjoy different aspects of our crafts and prefer to purchase others. You know what I'm saying? So, if that's you, that's okay too. But I have fun. Doing these, although I don't get as much time to do embroidery lately as I would like, because I spend a lot of time doing the graphic design for the digitals and stuff, which I also very much enjoy, and that also travels really well and is clean and keeps my hands busy. So I discovered another great outlet there, and I've started taking jobs as a virtual assistant to do branding for people and logo design and website design and things like that. So that's been a fun thing for me too. There's something kind of sticking up there and I'm not sure what it is. So I'm going to go back here and just kind of pick around at this and see if it's, not sure what's, I think there's some tails. Yep, there was some tails there that got stitched in, so just pick those out. There we go. Yep, that looks cleaner. That looks cleaner. Okay. I'm just gonna go like another stitch or so up this, because this all got filled in pretty nice. The only thing I think I'm gonna do is there's like a little space right up in here that just kind of wasn't quite filled in, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put a stitch up there just to fill in that space. There we go. That looks better. That looks better. Okay, so I'm gonna tie this off. Okay, and clip that. Now, I mentioned before I did not leave room for the star up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna loosen my bolt just a little bit, and I'm gonna tug this down to give myself a little bit more room to add a star to the top of the tree. And I'm gonna pull at the opposite end and kind of retighten this. That should be enough room. Should be enough room. Kind of tuck it down from here. So it's probably a good maybe half an inch or so. So I'm just going to get myself a little bit of a shorter piece, because I don't need as much of this particular thread. And I'm just going to do some straight stitches to make a star at the top. We don't need to do a split stitch or anything like this. And so I'm just going to, and I'm going to thread all 6 strands, like I said, because this is just a quick little embellishment. And if you wanted to go extra on this, you could add some more little stars throughout the trees to make it look like, you know, little ornaments or snowflakes or something like that. That would be cute. You could add some, once I teach you French knots, you could add some French knots to make the little dots. That's what those are. That's the next lesson, actually, is French knots. So, all right. So this is just those, just kind of a straight little straight stitch. I'm going to start right here at the tippy top of the tree. And I'm just going to put a straight stitch up top. And then I'm going to make an X over the top of that. Just like that. It's just very simple, very homespun little way to finish off that tree. Like I said, if you wanted to go extra, you could do some more of those kind of in and amongst, you know, the little branches, or you could do some, you know, whatever. So make it your own. And there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and tie this one off. So that this one is done. All right. There you go, my friends. There is our Christmas tree. So again, that was using a split stitch and a satin stitch, and then we went back to our little straight stitch to finish our star. So, and then there's the one that I did with a darker green, and I used some gold thread for the star at the top. So that one turned out nice too. Now, next tutorial, what I have planned is this one, where I'm going to teach you 3 different stitches. There's a modified fern stitch in here, there's a lazy daisy, and a French knot. This one is fairly time consuming, so this may have to come in 2 parts, but the stitches are easy. It just takes time to, you know, get everything in there and fill it in, but it's a beautiful little wreath. So that's what we're doing on our next tutorial. So